This is AIM Agenda. Thanks for being with us. With me this morning, Ed Husic and Josh Frydenberg. I want to look at now at Richard Torbay being dumped by the Nats, someone who's putting his hand up for the candidacy for the National Party in the seat of New England is Senator Barnaby Joyce. Let's have a quick listen to what he had to say this morning.
Obviously, it's upsetting that Mr Torbay has decided to step down, or has had to step down, and it's absolutely and vitally important that at this election we give our nation the best chance to win the number of seats that is going to change the government. We cannot go on like this. Now I am prepared to put myself forward if that is what the people wish. Now I've said this before, and I've always tried to be consistent. There are two obvious places that a person should stand, and one is where they live, and I live in Maranoa, and one is where they grew up, and I grew up in the New England. So I'm going to leave that decision to an electorate council. I'm going to leave that to the people, and I'm going to talk closely with my friends where I live and the people of the New England to see what is their views. I think it's vitally important at this point in time that those discussions are held before decisions.
Senator Joyce says he's going to leave it to the people of New England. Josh Frydenberg, Ed Husic with me. Tony Abbott says he'd be a strong candidate. Warren Truss only saying that he'd be one of 4 candidates, not saying he's the front runner. What's going on there? Is he threatened by Barnaby?
Absolutely not, and I think Barnaby is a very senior member of Tony Abbott's team, and I think he has a lot to offer New England. In fact, Barnaby Joyce would be a new start for New England, because by voting for Tony Windsor, you're effectively voting for the Labor government. And Barnaby grew up in that area, has a lot of support in that area, and is a terrific member of the coalition team. So I wish him all the best in a pre-selection. But at the end of the day, that's up to the members of the National Party.
Messy for the coalition, though, in a very important seat, to have someone pre-selected. He was meant to bring you swings of 10, 12%, now dumped for no reason, given no reason by the Nats.
Kieran, this is a glass half full. I mean, if we now get Barnaby Joyce in New England, what a great fillip that is for the National Party and for the coalition.
No Warren Truss feeling a bit vulnerable or threatened?
Absolutely not. Warren is the leader of the national... He
doesn't even say that he's the front runner, he's National Senate leader.
Warren has an obligation to spell out that it's an open pre-selection for the National Party, as it is. But, Warren's doing a brilliant job as the leader of the National Party, and, Barnaby is a very senior member of Warren's team and Tony Abbott's team. So I wish Barnaby all the very best in his pre-selection, but he would represent a new start for New England.
Did Labor run a candidate in New England? I don't think that... I'm not even sure they do. Do they?
I reckon you're being too hard. If Bruce Willis can make 5 Die Hard films, Barnaby can make a comeback. He can have another crack, Like, he's out there, he's been
Superman's coming back too.
Yeah, that's true, and they're making another Star Wars film. Except every time I say that, we talk about cryogenic freezing. But at any rate...
you prefer ABBA?
No, well, what's interesting is that, Richard... Torbay was being touted as a terrific candidate, outstanding were the words that Tony Abbott said, and as always, these changes get made, you never get explained. We had last week's front page of the Northern Territory News, Croc bites Chief Minister. He goes after a phone call. He's in Japan and he's gone. Ted Baillieu, gone.
And there's nothing happening.
Gone.
And there's nothing happening with the Prime Ministership at all.
Yes,
Julia Gillard,
gone. But I just love the way that they all sweep it along. We have no idea why Richard Torbay's gone. Why won't you cough up?
There aren't any crocs in New England.
Well, you never know. They migrate.
You've been watching too many horror movies, mate.
but seriously, is Barnaby Joyce in the lower house? Do you think that that's a potential Deputy Prime Minister right there?
No, I think, that's Warren Truss's position right there. But, at the end of the day, Barnaby will bring a lot of value to the lower house if he is pre-selected and if he's fortunate to win New England. But the point is, by putting his hand up for a seat in which he grew up in, I think that's a real plus for the coalition.
And Barnaby Joyce, you'd have to say, is going to have a bit of a fight in his hands. Tony Windsor is a very experienced, canny politician. I think the Nats would have to be careful giving him any sort of kick along at all, but you'd still have to say that Joyce if pre-selected, would be the favourite, given the general mood in the electorate?
Well, from what my dealings that I've had, albeit only a small number with Tony, is that you mentioned experience and canny, but he's well regarded, and I think it's easy to get that. When you talk and deal with the bloke, I mean, he's a fair income straight shooter, and he just calls it as it is, And I think that type of attribute would no doubt stand him well in his area, and I think he'd be a tough candidate to stand against.
You wouldn't want to give him too much of a kick along, would you?
Well, look, the point with Tony Windsor is that he's pretty much voted with the Labor Party every time. So he's not really an independent candidate. He's an extension of the Labor Party, and that's the point that the Nationals will be making coming the election in New England. And, the fact is, this government is on the nose. As a result, Tony Windsor's vote for this government is on the nose, and I hope to see a change in New England.
And finally, Ed Husic, to you, do you think that you'd have to say, as the politics stand at the moment, and the backlash against Tony Windsor, for the very reasons that Josh referred to, that he would be the underdog at this stage, regardless if he's pre-selected?
Well, we'll just wait and see what happens. I mean, Josh makes all sorts of predictions. How'd the Melbourne Heart go on the weekend?
Well, let's talk on Monday about the Prime Ministership then.
Well, I just want to show off my Wanderers tie. This is like a stake to a Melbourne Heart supporter.
The Western Wanderers.
Yeah, Western Sydney Wanderers.
You know who you're insulting about Melbourne Heart as well? Stephen Conroy, because we're co-number one ticket holders.
Yeah, like
Sydney.
Steve and I have never had differences before.
And the Western Sydney Wanderers have had a great...
cracking run.
A few run, and you're obviously hoping a bit of that rubs off on you.
Well, I mean, I have to thank you guys, because you helped us get 10 in a row. So,
all right. Well, that's soccer commentary. We've covered the 17th century.
That's right.
So,
Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, it's been a good
Simon
show.
Cream.
It's been productive.
Richard Torbay.
Good all round.
Good show, if we don't say so
It's free
ourselves.
flowing. It's not, Spears just has his harness on the show,
Thank you, Ed. And Josh, appreciate it. That's all for AM Agenda. Thank you for your company. We'll see you soon.